There are two countries in this continent that pretty much give away its location. One of them South Africa and Central African Republic. Today, with the pleasant company of Ambassador Andres Apayiki from the Central African Republic. Excellency, as Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the Central African Republic to South Africa, how would you define your diplomatic tour in this region? How long have you been in South Africa, and are there any moments or events that have stood up for you?
Thank you, good morning, and thanks for giving me this opportunity to talk about our cooperation with this friendly country. Indeed, with South Africa, we are the two countries in Africa that share the name Africa. At least people can know where we are located. Yeah. I'm here, I've been posted here since October 2014. So I'm going into my third year now. I think my third year. And I came here with one mission. You know, I was offered other opportunities, but my choice and the choice of my government was South Africa. Why South Africa? Because, as you know, South Africa is a leader in Africa. We need to support this country because it should continue being strong to voice African concerns on the international world. We have so many challenges nowadays, and I think Africa should be present in the world and to create room for itself and for Africans to influence world affairs. And we hope that by providing our little support to South Africa, we will contribute to this struggle, because it is a struggle. You know, South Africa is also a Pan-Africanist country, promoting many things, and African trade, exchange in Africa, African unity. South Africa has always been behind all those ideas, and I came here. That's one of the reasons. The other reason is also that South Africa is the only African country member of the BRICS, as you know, and South-South cooperation is becoming extremely important. And for us, we have experienced cooperation with the West. It will continue being important, but I think we need to look at around ourselves. If you are living somewhere, and the first thing you should do if you want to make life good and better for yourself is to be in good terms with your neighbors, trade with your neighbors. That is the first guarantee for any nation to be sure that it will live in peace and have a sustainable development. So we will, as I say, continue considering our cooperation with the West as important, but really our focus is towards our African brothers and sisters, and to give more priority to South-South cooperation.
Often the role of a diplomat can be somewhat glamorized, when in truth each job has its hardships as well, such as the difficulties involved in relocating and settling down in a country relatively far away from your home. Are you here with your family? How have they adapted, and how has their overall stay been?
Yes, thank you. Officially I'm here with my family. Adaptation has not, of course there is a language issue here in South Africa. But you know, for the children, it's very easy to adapt to any environment. And for us Francophones, this gives us also an opportunity to look at, to improve our contacts with another world, with the Anglophone world, with the English-speaking world. And this gives opportunity to improve our English, be in contact with different part of the world. That is through the media, through many things, and the kids also to improve their own English. Nowadays, speaking English is very, very important, as you know. Now, I think it was not easy in the beginning, because it is a total different system. The way public services work, the way even DERCO, the Department of International Cooperation, works, is different from our countries, so we have to learn and to know how this is set. But it's a quite challenging experience. It's a very beautiful country, extremely beautiful. And we are very interested in the potentialities of this country. It offers so many things on cultural level. There are many things common to us in culture. It's discovered names, the Bantu names in my country and here. The name Zuma is very popular in my country. So that's mention only one because it's very famous. Also the potentialities for our students, for example, to get possibilities for university training here, come here, or the technical training. So this is really for us, a gold mine of culture, of So I'm very happy to be here. And for tourism, we have also a lot of wildlife, as you know, and we share that with them. And the issues we learn also from the experience of this country a lot.
Have your diplomatic duties required your extended presence in any other African countries before being stationed in South Africa? If so, what was the experience like compared to being in South Africa?
Now, as you know, I'm not a career diplomat. I'm what is called a political diplomat, because just prior to coming here, I was a prime minister in my country. And after my resignation, for the sake of peace, I made a choice to come here. But so I was not an ambassador before. But I have a long experience with the diplomatic life, because before getting into politics, I used to work in the international banking system, in the development banks. I worked many years at the African Development Bank, and I ended up as executive director when it was still based in Tunisia. But I will say, I'm very proud to say that through this experience, through my international work, I know almost more than 40 of the African countries quite well. And I'm very happy that I got that opportunity. And South Africa is, the diplomacy here is something quite, we say, quite developed. The large number of diplomats here, that's already something amazing. When you see more than 120 something diplomatic missions in South Africa. That is great. That is, it gives opportunity to meet the whole world here. We can deal, and even being in this position here, I deal with the world issues. While some countries you can be quite isolated with very few 4 or 5 diplomatic missions. But here this is not the case. It's really being in the world here, and I think we learn a lot. But we cover also the mission here covers, including South Africa, 13 countries in total, and including even New Zealand.
Wow.
We cover New Zealand from here, and we are very. It gives us again another opportunity to learn more about Oceania and what we can get. And all those countries are really keen and willing to assisting South African Republic a lot. We rely on the diplomacy at the UN, in many areas.
Could you elaborate a little on the current state of your country? How would you describe the political, economic, and social stance of the Central African Republic?
Thank you for again giving me this opportunity. As you know, in the past years, my country that went through difficult situation. We had a civil war there, and some people tried to transform it into kind of religious conflict, but that was not the case. It was a kind of civil war. Much more wars between different communities. It was not a struggle against the state as such. The state became a kind of mediator in this struggle. But many efforts have been done, and also we got assistance from the international community. Huge assistance, and now we are getting out of the trouble. As you know, we had a transitional government from 2013 to 2015, and it was not easy, but we have been able to organize very acceptable elections. The results were accepted by everybody, and now we have a new president since 1 year now exactly. He was inaugurated on the 30th of March 2016, so it is now in power for 1 year. We have all new institutions are in place, a new parliament. We have also the court, and everything has been again put in place. So we are working towards sustainable peace now. One, towards reconciliation, and that is a priority for my country. If you follow the activities of my president in the past days, he has really been campaigning a lot in the world to seek international help for many things to support the peace process in my country, to mobilize resources. We have this donor conference in Brussels recently. At this moment now that we're sitting here talking is at the UN. It's gone to the UN to plead also for the lifting of UN embargoes on the army, on some of the things that can contribute to rebuild again the authorities of the states in the different areas of the country. Discussions are going on with for disarmament of the rebels, and it's making some progress now. We are very happy with that, and economically things are picking up again. Many investors are coming to South Africa. Recently we had a huge delegation of the Ministry, South African Ministry of Mining, for example. They were in a car for some days to assess with the Central African government the ways forward, how to help the country rebuild, restructure, and rebuild its mining economy. As you know, it's one of the richest countries in Africa. We have a lot of mines, and we need to reorganize the whole sector to make sure that the benefits will go to the state, to the population, and that also that we control the way things are being done in that sector to avoid that rebel groups use the mines and to perpetuate the conflicts in the country. So I think we are on the right way. We are working on an economic forum in the country to attract some investors, and we have a lot of opportunities to offer. Mining, we have everything in the area of mining, starting from diamond, gold, that's just like stones in my country, to uranium, oil, coltan, iron ore, many things. And I think then we have land. We are not, it's a big country, but we have very few population, little population, 4.7 people for a country that's maybe 80% South Africa, 623,000 kilometers square. And so we have enough land for farmers, even in this in South Africa, to come and do business in my country. And we have also, this is a country that need to be rebuilt completely from scratch. Thousands of kilometers of roads should be rebuilt. Bridges, even the TV, radio system should be rebuilt. Housing should be rebuilt. Universities, hospitals. So there are airports, ports. This really, that country should be rebuilt completely. And the government just made a plan to start for the rebuilding of the country. And we hope that doing our best also to make the country attractive for South Africa and Southern African businessmen and businessmen in other continents, particularly in the south, to develop some interest for the country and help us move ahead.
A few years back, South Africa had sent military aid to your country during times of hardship. Would you say our two countries have strong diplomatic relations, and in what areas would you say bilateral cooperation is strongest?
I think we have a really, South Africa for us is not really a foreign country. It's we are closely interlinked. we, South Africa has always been present when we needed it. If you see what South Africa does at the UN, all meetings at the AU, UN, at the Great Lake meetings, South Africa is always there to support the Central African Republic. And really we thank this nation for that. We thank a lot South African government for this. The military assistance we got from South Africa until 2013 was really most welcome, because the objective was to help us build to train our people, to train our army, to protect our borders, to build intelligence services, etc. To be able to protect our own nation, our territory. And exactly the failure of protecting this has led to this issue, to the problems we are facing today, because many of those rebels who invaded the country in 2013 came from mercenaries from abroad, from neighboring countries. So our weakness in protecting our borders has always been a problem, not only for us, but it's a problem for the entire Central African region. As you know, we are in a very delicate region. We are close to Sudan, and then after Sudan, we have the Middle East. Between Libya and us, we have Chad. And you know how weapons circulate now from Libya and the jihadist circulation. The northern, we are already part of the Sahel region. That is the area of where most of the rebels circulate today. Between Nigeria, Maiduguri, the stronghold of Boko Haram, and us, it's only a very small portion of Cameroon. And so we are in a risky situation. We are the northern border of the SADC. As you know, DRC is part of the SADC, and we have about 1,600 kilometers border with DRC. We are kind of a barrier, we are protecting that northern border. Because if those troubles in the Sahel region get to DRC, it will take only a few days to get to the southern border of DRC is in Zambia and close to Zimbabwe. And then we are already here in Southern Africa. So, and DRC has, I don't know, more than 9 or 10 neighboring countries. We have border with the IGAD countries, the Horn of Africa, the East community, it's a community with South Sudan. We have border with, we are member of the Great Lake Commission. Yeah. We are border with West Africa. So this is really, we are central to all this. And this assistance that we got from South Africa was extremely important. And unfortunately, as you know, the end was a bit dramatic. We suffered a lot from that. Those criminals who came from abroad created a situation that we lost some of our South African brothers and sisters. And it was very, very painful. It is very, very painful for us today. we hope that we will be able to overcome all this and consider this sacrifice as something that we need to rely on to continue the effort of building peace in that country and for the entire African continent. Nowadays, our diplomacy is really more focusing on mainly training and economic affairs. Because, as you know, we need to rebuild the capacity of our people, of our state. We need well-trained people in that country, and that we are doing our best to use the opportunities in South Africa as much as possible. We need to create jobs and wealth, and it's only through economic development that we can do that. And this is also something very good that is being done. South African NGOs are helping us a lot in the area of peace, reconciliation, national dialogue, because they have a very good experience with those activities here in South Africa. We learn from the successes, and we learn also from the where they failed. We learn from that, and they also learn from that, and they draw our attention also on some of the issues, some of the mistakes that was made here, and this is really something very good for us. Justice is also very an area that we learn a lot from in this country. And globally, I mean, this is everybody can say what you want to say as his opinion maybe about it, but this is a democracy. South Africa is a democracy. When I see some of the debates in the parliament, and that after that everybody gets out, hands in the pocket, and you go home and sleep quietly. The next day you can say and write what to say, and listen to the radio, how rich political debate is in this country. I think this is a democracy. It's a strong democracy. As I used to tell my South African friends in other countries, they can be an attempt, to change constitution, to prevent some of the debates, can try to find a political reason to arrest this one, put in prison. But we don't see those things here. And people respect each other. I mean, give opportunities really to every citizen to express itself. And how strong the institutions are in this country. It's amazing, and it is really for us a very good lesson. The executive is there, plays its role, and it's criticized, and it accepts also the criticism. The parliament plays its role, and that the justice plays its role. And it's extraordinary. And the private sector is also playing its role, and all the different organizations in this country. Civil society is very active. And I think that we need it. We need to really build those things. My country has suffered a lot from the absence of democracy, from the lack of democracy. Absence of strong civil service. Nowadays, we have a lot of civil society organizations in my country. A lot of newspapers, but still they are quite weak because they don't know yet the role they should play. The role, let's say, of watchdog of what is going on in the politics, what the executive is doing, etc. They are not playing it sufficiently, or that's my own view, or not yet as it should be. And they need a lot of training, and I think we can find possibilities to strengthen their capacity in this country.
Thanks. As a landlocked country, international trade may be affected. It is reported that the Central African Republic has one of the continent's lowest per capita income rates. But this is often attributed to the fact that these ratings and figures are based on export figures and often ignoring the unregistered sale of food, locally produced alcoholic beverages, diamonds, ivory, bushmeat, and traditional medicine. Could you elaborate a little on the state of the formal and informal economies on your country?
Before this trouble, our economy was mainly based on agriculture. Agriculture was our main economic activities, and particularly cotton and coffee. Those were and timber. Those were the three main economic activities in the country. When I say main activities, because you mentioned export, because we still have this traditional colonial system, economic system that is still in place, that we have not really innovated a lot since independence. We continue to produce for Western industry, to send the coffee, to send the cotton, to send the timber, etc. Besides that, we have the mines. And the mines is mainly also mainly diamond and gold. And that is also mainly export. We do not process them in the country, add value really in a country like now some country like Botswana that doing. That is also one of the things we are learning here in Southern Africa. You know, other minerals in my country are still there. The oil. Now there are some companies coming in. There are Chinese companies already present on the ground, doing prospections. Also South Africa company also present in the southwest, doing also prospections. But the prospects are quite favorable. And they are going almost toward production, we hope, in the next years. But since 2013, there have been a big problem with insecurity generalized in the country. We were highly dependent on export and import. And this became a problem because we are a landlocked country, as you said, and the road to go to the seaport in Cameroon was difficult to be used, and it brought the country into a big problem. Still, we managed to survive because 80% of our population lives from local economy. Local production, like as you mentioned rightly, local food production, local exchange, and trade between different regions. 80% of our people are rural people. They survive with doing a small agriculture or animal husbandry. So this has helped are survive in the country. But one advantage that we have also in my country is access to land. Every Central African has access to land, has right on the land, on the traditional land. Land is not occupied. It belongs to the state, but the state leaves it to the people for the use. So this access to land gives possibility for people, of course, to continue practicing agriculture and other different activities. But with really this trouble, other sectors have suffered a lot, like education, where we have strongly depending on import. Also health, also strongly depending on import of medicine and different drugs, for example. And now with the stabilization process, this has again, it's the way to Cameroon is open, it's secured, so the traffic is now again moving, and our trade with neighboring countries is getting stronger and stronger, because we have understood that, as I said before, that's only through this exchange with our neighbors that will give us sustainable assurance to develop our own country.
Central to the African continent, the landscape and environment of the Central African Republic is often described as breathtakingly beautiful. What would you say are some of the highlights of your country, and what would attract foreign visitors and tourists?
That is an open door. I mean, this we can talk endlessly about it. Indeed, it is such a beautiful country for us. Also, with Central Africans, we consider it so beautiful, and the people are so nice that despite all those troubles, Central Africans do not like to live abroad. You know, those abroad, when they go for study or for business, as soon as they finish, they have to go back to their country, because we love living in our country and enjoying our nature. As you know, geographically, we have three main landscape climates. In the southern part, that's where we have the huge rainforest, equatorial rainforest, part of the Congo Basin, that second Greenlands of the world with the Amazonia. In the center, we have a tropical savanna region. And in the north, then we are getting dried savanna region, getting closer to the Sahel type of landscape. And you know that is really one of the type of landscape that wildlife is the habitat, that's really the type of environment that they love. And we found in my country all type of wildlife. We had the biggest elephant in my country, as you know. Tourism used to be very wild tourism. We have never got the type of tourism that South Africa has. We do not have those. We have hotels, but not big hotels, this luxury tourism that you have here. I used to joke with my South African friends when they talk about wild animals. I'd say, no, your lions are not wild because they have birth certificates, they have an address, they have a doctor taking care of them. They have no, ours, and their names. You know their age. We do not know how lions are, whether they are sick, whether they are really wild, they are in the bush, they are in their own environment. If they meet you, you don't take care, they eat you up. So this is we have really wild regions still, and in the southwest of the country, in the forest region, as you know, we have also some South Africans go there a lot to visit the forest gorillas, the elephants, gorillas, the bongos. We have a lot of bongos in my country, millions of bongos all over in the country. So this is really something, and I'm very happy to see that some South Africans are getting more and more interest to start also game parks there in my country. And we are working on all those issues of peace to give this opportunity to our brothers and sisters in South Africa to be able to visit, and that will be for the next, really, the area where we will have to strengthen our cooperation on this particular area of tourism, ecology, and other matters, because it's I think there is a strong experience and knowledge here in South Africa.
So for those South African tourists, are there any visa regulations if they want to travel to your country?
It's very easy. I mean, if I'm not sick and in the hospital, normally we sign, because visas are signed by me, and we issue visas quickly. With South Africa particularly, we have a facilitated process of issuing visas, and they need only to come to the embassy in Pretoria, 209 Eastwood, next to the American and the Tunisian embassy. So we are well located. Everybody knows Cafe 41. We are just opposite in Eastwood. So when you come there, you'll be warmly welcomed, and then get your visa quickly.
Perfect.
Those who are in the different regions, we do not have yet very well performance system of electronic system to put it on the
Online.
system online. But as soon as they on request, we send the forms to them, and yeah, it makes things easier.
Thanks.
Yeah.
What are the trade relations like between the two countries? What is being trade, and do you have a trade attaché within your mission?
Yes, in our mission, I have economic and trade attaché who is quite busy. We have also a communication advisor who is they are working together, providing information to the business world here, also the cultural organizations, universities, etc., on the possibilities in my country. That's our main activity, in fact. I'm the only one dealing with politics. The others, they are really more concerned on this aspect of the cooperation. We are working on the revision of our global cooperation agreement with South Africa, and that new version will give room, really, more room to trade and economic cooperation. At this moment, as I said, there was a large focus on all those issues of political aspects, like bringing peace back to the country, rebuilding peace, reconciliation, national dialogue. It was quite intense in those days, but there are still a lot of business going on. We have some South African companies, engineering companies, working there at this moment. For example, rehabilitation of the airport, building roads. We expect more to be going there soon in the area of housing. There are some South African companies there are also hotels there. They are managing some hotels in my country. There is one South African who was this managing a game park in the southwest. He has a lodge. He's there since a long time now. He's doing quite well. And thanks to him also we have really maintained, despite the trouble, certain level of tourist activity. Because he's in a region that's extremely rich with with different type, particularly the forest gorillas. They are very rare in Africa. And the mining area, the trade of diamonds is also quite developed at this moment. We doing our best to make sure that it remains really in the legal framework, because there is a risk for that blood diamonds can be used to perpetuate the trouble in my country. But there are many people coming to ask for visa, and they get it quickly. And we, the embassy, also help them with contacts in the different contacts in the country.
Ambassador, thank you so much for your time today, for sharing such useful information with our readers and viewers. And we wish you all the best in the rest of your stay in South Africa.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks. Okay.